What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What's Cooking V. It's your girl Vakanya, also known as V. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode. If you watched our last episode and you're back here this time, appreciate ya. If it's your first time joining us, make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button before you do anything. So today we are going to go ahead and start our wonderful American meal. But before we start, I definitely wanted to tell you guys about my drink, because as you can see, I always start off with a drink. No, I'm not an alcoholic, but I definitely like to start off with the right energy, the right momentum, and who doesn't want to cook while they're drinking? I mean, come on. So today in my cup, I got some Jack Daniel, and as you can see, it actually says Jack Daniel on there. And I got a little bit of Coke in here. So if you're like me, you like to, go ahead and cook with some drink, definitely make sure you have this steady. So we're always going to have this, you guys, at every single episode. So just an FYI. Anyways, we'll go ahead and get started with our very first thing. So today we're making steak, shrimp, and we have some homemade mashed potatoes and some broccoli and cauliflower. So can't wait to show you guys what we have in store. All right, guys, so before I had already went ahead and washed my steak. How I wash my steak is I have some lemon juice as well as some salt. I soaked it in there for a little bit, and then I use some ippies, which I'm gonna show you guys what that means, or what that is, I should say. If you had watched my last video, you definitely know what ippies is. It's basically some Haitian seasoning. We put a lot of herbs in there and mix it in together. So that being said, I've already had some seasoning in there, some ippies, and then the only other thing I have in here is lemon juice. So what I did was I took an actual whole lemon, cut it in half, and pour some lemon juice in here. So now what we're gonna do is come over here. So this has been seasoned for about, like, I want to say 30 to 45 minutes prior. Some people do it overnight. Really up to you. Doesn't really matter. So now, past the actual seasoning, the ippies that I use, what I want to use now is some black pepper. You guys, I know last time I mentioned that I'm gonna have some measuring cups. We're still working on that. But again, like I mentioned to y'all, I like to cook based off of my gut. So I have some black pepper. Again, we're just gonna take a pinch and we're gonna go ahead and spread it all over the steak. And what I want to do now is flip it over just to make sure that both sides has some pepper. And we're going to go ahead and sprinkle. So yeah, so I have actually 6 pieces of steak in here. We're going to start with the first 2 just to kind of show you guys what I'm doing. So again, make sure you have some black peppers on both sides. Once you've done that, the next thing I want to use is this, it's called caldo con sabor de pollo. Sorry, if you speak Spanish, I'm trying. Anyway, so pollo means chicken. I know that much. So I have some chicken flavored seasoning in here. I already poured a little bit in here. So again, just a pinch, same thing I mentioned earlier about your whole gut. Your gut will tell you. You got to trust your gut when you're cooking. So yeah, so we go ahead and pour some on both ends. One thing I wanted to mention, you guys, the ippies already have some seasoning in it. So be very mindful. 1 pinch of ippies is more than enough. This one, I don't need to use it, so we're not going to go ahead and touch it. But the last thing I want to put, and this is going to give it a little bit of color, you guys. So if for any of you guys are like, oh, that's a lot of seasoning. Well, I like my steak nice and seasoned, baby. So we're gonna go ahead and use some of Sazon Goya, and we don't need a lot for this, so we're gonna just sprinkle a little bit, just 1 pack, you guys, 1 pack for all of the six pieces of steak that I have. Sorry, y'all. So Again, just you can sprinkle it on your hands so that way you have a little bit of sense of measuring. So you're not like, you know, putting it everywhere and it's concentrated in one area and then it gets salty. All right. Now that we're done on one end, you guys can see that nice color. I love the sazon because it's like an orangey color. So once you start pan searing it, which is what we're gonna do, it just gives it a nice golden brown color. So again, what I did is just 1 pack of the sazon, and then I use it on my hand to just sprinkle it over the steak. Okay, so just nice and even. You don't have to use a lot. And then now you're done. So let's head on over to the pan. So you guys, for this one right here, I already had it preheating for a little bit. You want to have it on high. If you're not ready to cook it right away, just have it on like I would say low. Maybe if it depends on how your stove is, but low is traditionally pretty good to have it, you know, just nice and hot. It's really, really important that you have this really, really hot because that's going to help us cook this not only faster, but for us to get that nice, even golden brown color that we need at a quicker pace without burning it. So, first things first, we go ahead and put this. Ooh, y'all hear that sizzling? Sizzle, baby, sizzle. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. Okay, so we're gonna do about 3 to 4 minutes on each side, and then we're gonna go ahead and check on it before we turn it. So now it's like 9:54. At about like 9:58, I wanna say, we're gonna go ahead and check it, okay? All right, guys, so I had some cut potatoes. These are russet Idaho potatoes. You can buy them, peel them, and then cut them and chop them in half. Have them boil for about 30 minutes, 25 minimum, 30 minutes maximum. You want them nice and soft because we're gonna go ahead and mash these potatoes. So we're making homemade potatoes today. None of that box stuff. Although you can make the box stuff, it's still the same similar process, which I'm gonna show you guys in a bit. So anyways, we're gonna take our boiled potatoes and go ahead and start draining them. Ooh. And now we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, guys, now that we've had this cooked for about 4 minutes on each side, I just wanna make sure I add a little bit of butter in here. This is going to keep it nice and juicy. So you just wanna put butter. One of the most important thing about pan searing your steak is obviously adding butter and then knowing when to flip it. So after, I know I said 4 minutes earlier, but 5 minutes to be exact, I will go ahead and flip it. And I believe these are called prongs. Y'all, English is my second language, but that's a prong. So you're gonna go ahead and take your prong and then flip. So now you have like a little bit of crust on here. It's starting to turn this nice brown color. Still not fully cooked, but you have all your juices on here. And we're gonna let this sit for about an additional 5 minutes. While we have this here, we're gonna move on over to our mashed potatoes. Remember I mentioned to you guys these are homemade mashed potatoes. So first things first, I put my butter in here. And then you can put the actual like temperature on like medium on here. And then I have some regular milk. It can be 2%, doesn't matter. But I have like about, I wanna say 2.5. Yep. So just half a way to like you wouldn't even need 5 cups. But anyways, you basically pour it in here. What we're gonna do is boil this milk. And I normally like to add evaporated milk. You can have carnation. Mine said the Publix value, guys. Whatever, it's still evaporated milk. If you want to get the one that says carnation and be all fancy, you can do that. But just 1 can, I went ahead and opened it up. So I'm gonna pour it in addition to the milk that I already have. I know some people like to use water and stuff like that while they're making their mashed potato. But I feel like using milk, it makes it a little bit more rich, and that butter gives it that nice, soft, rich, buttery taste. So that's why I personally like to use milk. But if you want to be plain, use water. I'm just kidding. You can use whatever you like. So while we have this going, before we put the cover on the lid on it, we're gonna take some Goya product. This is the chicken bouillon, which is chicken flavored. We're gonna use this to put in it. And then right here, I have some adobo, Goya flavored. Again, we're using Goya flavored everything. And then you got some garlic salt. What I did is I mixed both of these together into here. And so again, with the pinch, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use the pinch and just one packet of this and pour it in here. Now, the reason why I don't wanna put more salt in here, and you guys make sure you're watching your steak, okay? Because you don't want burnt steak. Like, nobody wants burnt steak. So what I did was I just put it down in the middle because it was a little bit high. I believe the temperature is like about 150 degrees. And how you know when it's ready to flip is the blood, the juices starts to rise up. And then that indicates when it's actually ready to flip on over. So this is just about ready to flip on over. And when you know it's actually fully cooked is when it starts to give those clear juices. But because we're doing it medium well, you kind of want a little bit of pink. So we're gonna flip this in just 1 minute. But before we do, we're gonna take our Goya Maggi or chicken flavored and pour it in here. And then now we're gonna go ahead and cover that. Okay guys, so we got this boiling. It's probably gonna take maybe like 2 to 3 minutes for it to boil. Have it on high. Look at me. Have it on high. You got your steak, which is like still kind of simmering, y'all. So don't mind me. I literally just found out that I was saying this is sprung. I'm not sprung off of anything, but this is not the name. It's actually called a prong. A thong. I'm still learning, but it works. You get the gist. So let's go ahead, before we go ahead and touch our vegetables, we're gonna wash our hands. You guys, with this whole COVID stuff going on, it's definitely important to wash your hands. If you are an individual that prefers to use latex gloves or any types of gloves to wash your hands prior to, great. And you can sing that happy birthday song while you're washing your hand. Really like 20 seconds to make sure that your hands is nice and clean. I like to make sure that I'm washing my sink as I go, but just make sure you rinse it off pretty well. You can use warm water, hot water. Hot water I prefer because it's just better to me. It kills all the germs, so whatever. So now we're gonna come here, and I already have some of this pre-cut, but we have some broccoli, we have some cauliflower, and what I'm doing is just basically cutting it in half, right? And then I have these like miniature carrots. I'm gonna cut them like diagonally only because I feel like this will help it cook faster. So you cut that, and then you continue, go ahead and cut your broccoli. And again, like I said, more than half of these have already been cut. The smaller you cut them, the faster they cook. And so if you're on a time crunch, definitely use this method to go ahead and get this. I know y'all saw that. So make sure that you're paying attention to this because this can actually start to boil pretty quickly. No biggie, we're still good. It's not a big deal. But one of the things that I forgot to do that I think you guys should do is make sure that you take the cover off so that way as it's boiling, it's not spilling all over. We'll go back and clean that real quick. So we're done over here, and we're gonna go ahead and start rinsing these off before we cook them. I'm using cold water here to clean these off. You guys can use warm water. It really doesn't matter. The moral of the story is make sure that your vegetables are really clean. You don't want no anything in here. We don't know where these things have been. I know they're well packaged, but still. make sure that you wash them thoroughly. All right, guys, so we're gonna make sure we wash our hands because that is extremely important, especially with this COVID norm that we have going on right now. So what I went ahead and did was I pre-sauteed the vegetables, not for too long, but now what we're gonna do is I have some, this is vegetable oil. You can use whatever oil you want, but go ahead and spread some vegetable oil on here. And then we're gonna take our, before we do that, I have some already minced garlic in here, and then I have some chopped up green onions. So I'm gonna take my minced garlic and chopped up green onions, again, just a pinch, and put it right here. And then a little bit of that green onions, put it right here, and have it kind of like sauteing over here. So and we can put a little bit of oil because it seems like it needs a little bit more oil, so just a tad bit more. And the goal of having this is to have it to where it's a golden brown color. So why do we put the green onions and the garlic on there? Honestly, why do we do anything, right? But no, for real though, it's actually for flavor. So you kind of want a little bit of flavor in your vegetables. So while I have that going, we're gonna check on our steak. It's nice and colored. You can see like some of the juices coming out of it. So it's about to be done. We're gonna flip it one more time, and then we're gonna be done with the steak. Now, back to the vegetables. So this was already pre-cooked. I pre-cooked this for about 15 minutes, and I just kind of like kept stirring it. All I did was use regular oil and kept stirring it until I felt like it was a little bit soft. So now, oh, it has such a sweet aroma, you guys. Like, I wish you were here to smell it because it smells amazing. So now we're gonna go ahead and put our seasoning in here. So I have some black peppers. We're still doing the whole pinching system. Just a pinch of black peppers. You sprinkle it all around. And then I have my chicken flavored Goya product, which is what we've been using. It's another seasoning. I'm just gonna use one packet to put it in here because, again, you wanna have that seasoning, savory flavor once you're biting into your broccoli and your vegetables. You don't want it to be bland. Sorry about that. So once you've poured in your one packet, we're just gonna go ahead and stir. Look at me using this as like a little thing. So you're gonna stir a little bit more. So all we have in here is our black pepper and then our Maggi seasoning. The other thing I like to add, you guys, is a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Now, you can use white vinegar if you don't have apple cider vinegar. But we're gonna use apple cider vinegar, not too much because that vinegar has a very strong smell. So literally just like, I don't know if this would be a teaspoon, but just a little top cover. We're gonna put it in here, and this is going to give it a zesty taste. And the aroma, of course, is just like amazing. So while we're going to stir this, the last thing I want to add, you guys, is a little bit of seasoning, that ippies that I mentioned earlier. You can use it on literally everything. If you're watching so far, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And then I will make sure that I do a special video to show you guys how I make my ippies. Any Haitian person knows this. Do you have to use it? No, you don't. If you don't have ippies, honestly, you can skip this step and use the same step that I mentioned earlier, just without the ippies part. I use the ippies because it's a lot of herbs in here. You gotta stay tuned for when I make that video. So it gives it a little bit of different flavor. So as you guys can see, we have our vegetables nice and cooked, nice and seasoned. You can kind of like go ahead and taste it. Yum, perf. All right, so before we go ahead and wrap the broccolis up, let's go ahead and check on our mashed potatoes. It's nice and creamy. So you still have some of the milk still boiling in there. The goal is to drain all of that excess water, or I should say excess liquid, but you have a nice and creamy mashed potatoes here. Don't mind the brown parts. It's most likely some skin of the mashed potatoes, or like just some of the milk that was like boiled over. So, but still, it's still so yummy and creamy. So now we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, y'all, so our steak is just about done. We're gonna go ahead and take it, ooh, nice and well, or medium well done, I should say. And then this is a nice dinner if you're trying to like impress a loved one. You can go ahead and use the same process that I used, or if you're just, you know, wanting to feel fancy for yourself. So next up, we're gonna go ahead and start with the shrimp. So you can kind of like use this leftover, I guess you could say, sauce. But this was from the steak. You can use it unless you're like allergic, right? Then you would not want to, you know, mix them all together. But basically what I did was use the previous sauce from the steak. And then now I'm gonna go ahead and put my shrimp. My shrimp has already been seasoned, you guys. And how I seasoned it, again, was I used the ippies and put some black peppers on there, as well as the Goya Maggi that we've been using throughout this whole entire cooking session. Thank you guys so much for sticking through. I hope you've been having a great time so far. So our shrimp, these are like these extra large shrimp. I prefer the large one because once they start to cook, they shrivel up. So you want those little tiny weeny shrimp. So the larger the better. Yeah, the larger the anyways, you guys, so while we're gonna have this cook, before we flip it over, again, the one thing with shrimp is once it starts getting this like orangey color, that's when you know it's starting to cook. So we're gonna leave it on each side for about 2 to 3 minutes before we go ahead and flip it on over. And now, while this is cooking, we're gonna check on our mashed potatoes. Again, this should be right about done. Honestly, in total, it should take you from the time that you boiled your mashed potato, which is like 30 minutes, to the time that you actually have this finished product. It really should take about 45 minutes. So 30 minutes to cook the actual mashed potatoes, and then 15 minutes to actually finish the product. This is how I like to, you know, taste my food, you guys. This is like real Haitian or Caribbean way, or even African way too. So this tastes yummy. We have our vegetables right here. This is already done. So now all we need to do is finish this, and then we are good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna start to turn it around, you guys. You can start to see the colors are changing. That is an indication that this is cooking. You're gonna have this on high, so that way it doesn't really take a lot of time to cook shrimp, to be honest. I feel like less than 10 minutes, your shrimp is already pre-cooked. So notice how I use that sauce from the steak, and really that's all the sauce that you need. So while this is cooking, we can let this simmer. The last thing I want to add, I have some parsley. And then I also have some cloves. So for the cloves, it gives it like, you know, a little bit of a spicy taste. You guys, when I seasoned my shrimp, I did put some of this Calypso salsa sauce. You can skip this if you don't like spicy food, but I use it in my shrimp when I season it just to give it a little bit of spiciness. And then for the cloves, honestly, about 5 cloves is more than enough. And then I have some parsley that we're gonna make sure we wash and put it in our shrimp. It smells amazing, you guys. I just love the smell of shrimp. So make sure, most important thing, clean up as you go. You don't want to leave a mess or have too much of a mess, so make sure you're cleaning up as you go. All right, guys, so we have our dinner for two already ready. You can add a little bit of red wine to this because red wine normally goes very well with the steak. So if you have some red wine to accompany this, you're more than welcome to. But we have our steak, we have some sauteed shrimp, homemade mashed potatoes, and some broccoli and cauliflowers and carrots. Now I did cook mine pretty well done. If you don't like your broccoli or anything well done, that's up to you. But let's go ahead and dig in. Y'all gonna see that I am left-handed. So I still have a lot of the juices on here to kind of like keep it pretty well seasoned. But I went ahead and cooked this well done. You can cook it medium well if you like, but let's go ahead and right into Oh my gosh, you guys. So well seasoned. The juices in there is amazing. Just amazing. I wish you were here to taste it. You can have an idea of how it tastes at home. But still so tender. Sorry, it's so good that I can't even speak. But again, key thing is to use butter. Use butter. Make sure you use butter because it gives it that nice flavor. But let's go ahead and try the shrimp. I left the tail on there. If you don't want to leave the tail, that's up to you. I just think that everywhere you go, they leave the tail, so I left the tail. The shrimp is kind of spicy. Actually, it's a lot spicy, but it's nicely cooked. And then you got your broccoli. Oh my goodness, this food is just amazing, you guys. So even though the broccoli is well cooked, it still has a little bit of crunchiness to it, right? So you don't want it to be like super soggy where it's falling apart, but at least have it cooked, you know? And last but not least, you guys, this is so yummy. If you're trying to impress somebody, make this. You'll definitely impress them for sure. And the mashed potatoes, it's nice and soft, nice and buttery. You don't even need no gravy, girl, because it is just good as it is. Anyways, thank you for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This was another episode of What's Cooking Bee. Make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Can't wait to see you guys on the next episode. Much love.